What is up, everybody, and welcome to CTW Live. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, and thank you all for joining me here today on the CTW network here on CTW Live. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the upcoming NBA draft, in which is somehow, some way, only 2 days away from now on June 25th. 2025. We'll be talking about the 2025 NBA draft, some of the rumors at the top of the draft. We'll also be talking about the legacy of Game 7. We did a whole post game over it last night. Go check it out after you're done with this one. However, we're going to talk a little bit more about the legacy of Game 7, some hindsight thoughts the day after Game 7. Obviously, our post game very reactionary. However, after the game and the situation and everything that happened last night down in Oklahoma City, marinated for a full 24 hours or nearly a full 24 hours now. Give some thoughts. We're going to give some thoughts on that and some of the lasting legacy of Game 7 and even the Oklahoma City Thunder as we go on into the future. We'll also bring up some tidbits on the Houston Rockets and their deal pertaining to Kevin Durant and also the recent Daniel Gafford extension, in which just dropped today. That has some implications for the Celtics, not directly, but some rumors that we were talking about lately that may as well need be updated, right? And they needed to be updated. However, let's get right into it. The NBA draft. And right away, I want to talk about the scheduling of the NBA draft. And this is going to get into an entire conversation about the scheduling of the entire NBA season and NBA calendar as a whole. But we're going to start with the draft and then expand out, right? Because the NBA, it just seems as if their scheduling is a little inefficient to their product and their viewership, their fans, their content creators, everything out there. And whether that's because of the NBA trying to compete with football in the winter, or that's the NBA. Now we see the draft. They're having the NBA draft 2 days after the NBA finals. The NBA can sometimes do a good job of shooting themselves in the foot in different areas. And I believe the scheduling of this NBA draft is another one of those examples for the NBA. That being said, well, first, let's get into this. The NBA draft, it's on June 25th, 2 days away. You see at the top here, it's June 23rd. Yesterday, last night, the 2024-25 season officially ended. And yet now, the first day of the 25-26 season, the first event, right, the NBA draft, is bam, 2 days away. And 3 days away from last night, really 48, about 48 hours away from this point now will be the NBA draft. But from last night, 3 days away, today, 2 days away. That's just a really short time frame to go from the height of basketball, the NBA finals, to the NBA draft. And I understand there are almost mutually exclusive events within the NBA because you have the two best teams, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Indiana Pacers. Every year it's, could be two different teams. Obviously, we've seen the same two teams 4 years in a row back in the 2010s in the Cavs and Warriors. But those two teams, they're competing at the highest level. They're arguably, I mentioned this last night, the two teams competing in the finals are arguably the most secure rosters. If you make it to the NBA finals, if you make it especially to a game 7 of the NBA finals like the Thunder and Pacers did, you're more inclined to keep the roster you currently have going into next season and to make minimal changes. I mean, we just saw that from the Boston Celtics. The Celtics, they win the finals. They make zero changes, nearly zero changes. I mean, Svi Mikhailuk, he exits the building, and O'Shea Brissett, they exit the building from Boston. But outside of that, the Celtics didn't really do too much. They added Baylor Shireman, of course, Torrey Craig. But those two additions, you swap Brissett and Mikhailuk for Craig and Baylor Shireman, the Celtics really didn't do much, right? And ultimately, these are two secure rosters and teams playing in the NBA Finals. They're not, they're involved in the draft, right? Yet their rosters, it's not as if they're the rosters in which people are highlighting, say this offseason, like the Rockets, the Spurs, they're two teams a lot of people are looking at because they have the potential, as we saw yesterday with the Kevin Durant move, to make big moves. That's not necessarily the finals teams every single year. So I understand sometimes the stakes in the finals versus the stakes in the offseason. I mean, a couple teams have already been off for 2 months. Like, just think the Charlotte Hornets, the Washington Wizards, the the Utah Jazz, they've been off for 2 months already, 2.5 months nearly. And they definitely, from their perspective, I kind of look at the draft, the scheduling right now, and I go, well, there's 3 days between game seven and, of course, the series. It went to get 7 games. It went to 5 games. We probably wouldn't be having the same conversation right now. But the scheduling is how it was this season and how it played out. We have you have 2 days, right, in between the draft from the finalists. But compared to the teams who are actually the most active around draft time in the offseason, they've been off for 2.5 months. And I compare it to the NFL, where the NFL, there is a massive amount of time in between the Super Bowl and the NFL draft. The NFL draft is in late April or early May. It's usually that first week of May, last week of April, one of those, the last Thursday, the first Thursday, whatever it is, right? And that's what, February, March, April, May. That's 2, 3 months after the Super Bowl in mid-February now, which we gotta get used to saying that mid-February Super Bowl, not an early February Super Bowl, as they continuously add more weeks to the NFL schedule. But the NFL, there's a huge time gap in between the Super Bowl, the two teams who are the finalists playing for the championship, and the NFL draft. There's a big window. Meanwhile, in the NBA, there's a 3 day window here, at least this year. And typically there's a week's worth of a window. Maybe there's 10 days. We've seen it in the past. The Warriors, they sweep the Cavs and in 4 games back in 2018. A lot of time in between those finals and the draft. Anytime you have a 5 game series, the last 2 years, really, 2023, 2024, both 5 game series, a little more time in between the finals and the draft. This year, game seven again changes the conversation just a little bit, but you compare the NFL schedule to the NBA's, and I'm not saying the NBA has to model themselves after the NFL, and it's really not, and I'll get into this in a second, it's not a great comparison, but the fact there's so much time in between the NFL's Super Bowl and the draft, that time lends itself to so much content about the draft, on the draft, and on the offseason. I mean, there's free agency is roped into that time period as well for the NFL. The NBA, it just feels like a knee jerk type of move. It doesn't feel like we have time to let these storylines marinate. We don't really have time to digest these storylines, because right now it just feels like right now, as a content creator, right, for the NBA space, it just feels as if everything is coming at us at once, right? It's like, oh, here's the Kevin Durant trade. And, oh, here's game seven of the NBA finals. And, oh, and while after you're done talking about that, now move on to the draft, which is 2 days away. It doesn't feel like we have time to extend the discussion about these storylines. It doesn't feel like we have time to really marinate within the storylines, right? It doesn't feel like we can really we can really spend the proper amount of time on the headlines, on the storylines, in which are coming out to us. We're making content, of course, and all the NBA fans and even the executives out there. It just feels like everything is very close together, at least from a headline perspective. Now, I understand behind the scenes, some teams have been off 2 months already. The Charlotte Hornets the executives in their front office, they don't care about, oh, well, the NBA finals ended 2 days ago. We've been working on the draft since, let's face it, I mean, the draft is an ever evolving, you're always working on the draft. I mean, there are scouts right now likely working on next year's draft and next year's prospects already, and even beyond that. So it's an everlasting process of draft scouting and evaluation for all teams. Don't get me wrong, but say the Charlotte Hornets or the Washington Wizards or the Utah Jazz, right? Some of the worst teams in the league who have been out for 2 months waiting to make their top draft pick and waiting to make a move in the offseason. All right, folks, we are back. We are back in here. A little bit of a technical difficulty there. However, we're back. We're back in here. Got to get back on point here. Got to change a couple of things around here behind the scenes. Some technical difficulties there, but we're gonna get past it just fine here. I will say, and we'll get back onto our topic discussion real quick. As we know, we always have a lot of time on here. So let's get back into it. All right. So after those technical difficulties there, we're back. We're here. We're live. We're still live. We're back. But the NBA draft, okay? The NBA draft scheduling. Some teams have been off for 2 months, right? That's the whole gist of this conversation. Some teams have been off for 2 months. I understand that. And other teams, specifically the Pacers and the Thunder, they've been off for 2 days. Executives play a different role. They're not playing basketball. All they have to do is watch basketball games. They're usually scouting or on the phone. They're trying to make transactions happen. I understand that executives specifically, right, who are the ones within the specifically the basketball operations department. All right, the basketball operations department, the ones making the decisions, the guys who are in the war room actually coordinating what a roster should or could look like moving into the future. All of those guys, their jobs are not necessarily on the court. The on court is completely different. Coaches, players, everybody involved, security, everything involved, right? Assistant coaches, security, arena workers, everybody involved in the on court or the game day, uh, involved in game day period, right? Not necessarily the executives. I mean, they really, well, their entire involvement on court or in game day, right, is watching the game, basically. There's no responsibility in arena, right? There's no responsibility in arena, inside NBA arenas, that executives own on game days. So, from that perspective, I understand, yes, executives behind the scenes, they can do their jobs. They can 100% do their jobs while basketball is going on. It's they don't really own a responsibility on game day. I can understand that angle 100% in all of this. But you got to think of the fans, you got to think of the public, you got to think of the maneuvering of headlines, right? The maneuvering of storylines, the coordination of storylines and content creators like us. Okay, you got to think of us, NBA. You got to think of us because to me it's like look right now, Monday morning. All right, we're at Monday evening right now, but Monday morning. Did all the shows know which headline to run on Monday morning? Did they? For real? Because Kevin Durant is traded. The Oklahoma City Thunder win the title. Tyrese Halliburton goes out, and we'll get to that with a torn Achilles later. And the NBA draft is on the horizon, in which Cooper Flag is going to go number one. That'll be the top story, yada yada. Everybody, and to me, by the time the draft comes around, the number one pick, it's not that much of a story anymore. It's usually a during the season, right? If you have a consensus number one pick, uh, but the rest of the draft, right? All of these headlines are coming out at once, and I just look at the NBA and go, why not spread this out a little bit? Just a little bit from the content side of things, from the headline side of things to the fan, the public interest. I mean, I understand the executives, the players, they're not really affected by this, right? By the 2 days, right? They're going out, NBA finals ended. All right, cool. We've been working on the draft for months. But it's for everybody else, right? The product is actually for. Let's actually think of the people in which the product is actually for, the consumers of the product. All right. I believe the NBA would benefit by shifting around their schedule more so than just the draft. First off, the draft, here's my proposal for the scheduling with the draft. If you want to do the normal schedule and run the schedule into June and the NBA finals into June the way it's ran right now, go ahead, NBA. Go ahead. Keep that same schedule. But during the summer, I understand there's been a culture and a tradition formed here in the NBA community on June 30th, July 1st. That's free agency. It used to be July 1st at midnight, but now it's what 6:30 Eastern on June 30th, right? 6 p.m. Eastern. I believe it's 6 p.m. Eastern on June 30th. They started during the evening because it was already they and this was again, see, this is where I'm saying, hey, think of the content creators, think of the actual fans consuming the product, right? Because initially the free agency deadline was July 1st at midnight, and that was a deadline set contractually, just along the lines of, well, when it reaches this date, right, at midnight, and it's really the day, right? July 1st, free agency, and well, midnight, that's the first minute of the day, so therefore it starts the first minute of the day, right? That arbitrary deadline became an event for the NBA. It became they're doing shows in studio on ESPN. I remember when Woj joined ESPN from Yahoo Sports, and they did a midnight show. And they were on till 1 a.m. and it became an event, right? That midnight deadline became an event, and all of a sudden, ESPN was doing live shows. Everybody's tweeting out. Everybody's awake, and it's at midnight. It's a midnight event for the NBA. And so, what did the NBA do? Well, they simply moved that midnight deadline contractually back to 6 p.m. on June 30th instead of midnight July 1st. And why did they do that? It wasn't because, oh, well, the executives and everybody, oh, they stay up till. No, it was for content creators. It was for ESPN, TNT. I mean, mostly the TV providers, right? So for the TV providers and the fans, the NBA turned free agency into a prime time event. They put the deadline in prime time so that they could host a live show on prime time to the entire nation, to North America, to the rest of the world out there, the globe. They made that deadline. They created a deadline within prime time in purpose of the fan experience and in purpose of viewership. All right? So keep that in mind here with the NBA. Free agency, they already moved the deadline to accommodate fans, primetime, TV providers. Okay, and that's my suggestion with everything else is let's focus on the consumers, content creators, like let's focus in on that here with the NBA draft and the window. My proposal is the NBA draft, can we move it to the date in which free agency is on right now, or even past that date? Because to me, the NBA, there's a large swath of the schedule in the summer, right? Just the August, September, if you want to count September within summer as well. I mean, technically, I guess. But July, August, September, especially August and September, there's nothing going on in the NBA. In my mind, you can grab that time of the year because baseball is not as nationally, it's not as culturally embedded. It's more of a local thing. Baseball, people follow their local market teams. Basketball, football, they're a little bit more national, a little bit more global. I mean, for example, I mean, look, I got the St. Louis Cardinals hat on here from St. Louis, got my local market baseball team on, but it's like, who do I mean, I cover a team nationally, the Celtics. So, for example, but there are months, right? July, August, September in there. The NBA should utilize that time because in my eyes, the NBA, and maybe this gets into the whole discussion before I actually give out this proposal for the draft. But the NBA, the schedule, they don't utilize the baseball portion of the year as much as they should. The NBA does too much battling with the NFL during the winter and during the fall. That's a problem I see within the NBA. It's you bat for 2.5 months essentially, and more than 2.5 months, really 4 months. You think about it, 4.5 months, basically 4.5 months during the winter, the fall into the winter. The NBA battles the NFL. Yet the NBA, they're not going to hold any events from the end of July into August into September when only baseball's on. And baseball, to me, again, baseball doesn't really capture the national spotlight. It's a little more local. So the NBA, for my proposal here, you could easily, and I have a bigger one with the whole schedule and then a smaller one here with the draft. This is the small one. The small one, you can move the draft back either to that July 1st deadline, in which used to be the NBA free agency deadline. You could move it to that date, or you could even move it further into July, because this is my perspective of this. Why does it really matter if you're moving the draft back a week, 2 weeks? Does it really matter? These guys, and like some of them, all the draft prospects, and which we'll get into some of them here on this live stream. But some of the draft prospects, so their seasons are all over the place. You have some European guys finishing a little bit later than the college guys. Some finish earlier than the college guys. We all know uh, the NCAA, they finish basically in March, April if you make the national championship. And I just, all those guys are off multiple months already. Another week or two really just doesn't, I don't see it being a huge detriment to, oh, an extended period of time for all these draft prospects before they get drafted. It's a week or it's really not that much time. I don't know why there's such a push and pull with this kind of stuff. But ultimately, if you add a week or two to the schedule, you push the draft back into July, then people go, well, what do you do with summer league? Well, summer league, that's easy. You push it back into July or August. It's summer league. Okay, it's summer league. It's held out in Vegas. I understand this has to be coordinated on a huge level with TV providers and all the venues out in Las Vegas to actually host the summer league. And you got to move these dates around, right? That's a huge coordination project, but the NBA can do it. All right, they've changed deadlines before. They've morphed the league before. I mean, we see the new CBA, what's happening there. The NBA, in my mind, they should let this time, right, between the draft, well, between the NBA finals and the draft, gotta let the topics digest a little bit, give people some time to really get into the draft, and then go ahead, host the draft, and go into summer league at the end of July and into August. And I would actually love an August summer league. I mean, we to me, some of the model of the schedule was there in 2021 when the leagues, they played 72 games. The entire league played 72 games. And during that season, it was a shortened COVID year. That was kind of the model because Summer League was in August, the finals in July. And that kind of brings me on to the bigger point of the NBA needs to change the entirety of the calendar for the entire year. I think that would be smart for the NBA. I'm a traditionalist. I got to say, I'm more of a, I am all for the NBA's dates throughout the year because I mean everybody kind of knows like okay, here's when the trade deadline's coming up, NBA Xmas, you got obviously the playoffs, the NBA finals, you have free agency, the draft. I'm down with the culture that we already have, but at the same time, I think the NBA would benefit by shifting around their entire schedule. I'm just talking about the draft here, but I'm going to go bigger picture and say the entire schedule, the NBA could benefit by switching the schedule around um, just a little bit here. And by a little bit, I mean by a couple months. So, for one, the NBA, I already mentioned it, they battle the NFL throughout the year. Why not just, I don't know, maybe don't start in October in the middle of the NFL season? Because seriously, October through December in the NBA, it's like the NBA, it's that's the NBA diehard time, right? It's like all the diehards are there in October, November, December. It's like, oh yeah, basketball's back. But the NBA, from a national standpoint, a national audience, a global audience, it's just not there during October and December. And why would there be? It's also why the NBA Cup exists. It's why the NBA in-season tournament exists in November. And you think about the final, it's in December. So that tournament goes from November to December. Why? Because the NBA wants to add interest to the schedule in that time of year in which they know there's no interest. People are focusing on football, they're focusing on other things in the winter. This is the start of the season. It's the lowest level of basketball all year long, really. I mean, you get the start of the season the first week, it's like, oh, here's everything. Like, we're ramping back up, everybody's coming back. And then easily by December, it's like, okay, here we go, game 20, game 21. And people don't really pay much attention. So why even bother with that part? Like why even bother with those months in the schedule if it's only the diehards? You need to create the NBA Cup to actually create interest, and there are no casuals watching, which is went on to went in on this and on an entire column, a long column, right? I wouldn't even call it a column. It was a it was the whole paper, right? I went into this and it's it's like the ratings, right? The ratings, right? This is such a debacle, right, with the ratings, and it's not really a debacle. They just signed a massive deal, but people want to talk about it. But I covered the fact that the schedule, right, in November, December, it's like you have the NBA Cup to draw interest, right? You have the NBA Cup to draw interest, and furthermore, you the NBA Cup, you need it there if you're the NBA to draw interest at that point in the year, in the November to December range. And I gotta say, um, ultimately, like that part of the year, right? The NBA, that part of the year, why even bother? Why even bother with it? Why even have it within the schedule? And oh, this was I don't know if anybody could tell there. Completely forgot this point. Here we go. This is what I detailed here in the big paper, right? It's the casuals in which the NBA is losing. I was like, I know there's some kind. I was like, come on, find it, find it. It's the casuals, right? It's the casuals in which the NBA is missing when it comes to ratings. Okay, it had something to do with ratings. I knew that. The ratings, the reason the ratings are down. I mean, there's a million reasons, and I wrote about it out there, but it's primarily if you look at the groups in which aren't around anymore for the NBA, right? Their viewership, it's the casual fans. It's the casual fan. The NBA doesn't have the casual fan viewership, especially in the winter during the football season. Because I'll tell you, there are a lot of dual football basketball fans out there, and a lot of them will favor football. I'm one that favors basketball. I'm not like everybody else. There are a lot of people out there that will favor football over basketball. And during that time of the year, I'd say the NBA, just get rid of it. Start on Christmas because on Christmas, the NFL season is starting to wind down. On Christmas, there's only about 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks left, depending on how the schedule shakes out. Usually, the NFL, I mean, they're talking about the NFL a lot here on this program, but the NFL, they that Christmas schedule, that those weeks. I mean, the Chiefs, they just played what, 3 games in 11 days in December of 2024. So the scheduling, the week to week in the NFL is a little wonky when it comes to the holiday season in December. But regardless, the NBA, if they start on Christmas, you're only dealing with the back half of the not even the back half. You're dealing with the final 1, 2, 3 weeks of the NFL regular season and not the entire second half of the schedule because when the NBA starts, the NFL is only on about week 8. Like you have to survive 10 more weeks plus the playoffs plus the Super Bowl if you're the NBA. Yet if you started on Christmas, all you need to survive is 1 to 3 weeks, playoffs, Super Bowl. And you're not going to avoid competing with the NFL entirely. You can't just, oh, let's start in February. That's not going to happen for the NBA. But you start in Christmas. We saw the outline, the roadmap, the blueprint in 2021 of what a Christmas start could look like. It was NBA season starts on Christmas, and I understand there was only 72 games that year. It was a shortened schedule, which people think out there it's got to be a 72 game schedule. Got to shorten up the schedule. I mean, you look at some of the injuries in the playoffs. You look at the NBA like games 70 to 80 don't it just feels like the schedule is a little long. And I don't want to say though it's those games don't mean those games don't mean much, but if you shorten it to 72, it'd be games 60 to 72, right? 62. So I'm not even gonna get into that argument, but that was a 72 game season in 2021, right? And that season though, the playoffs, they're in late May. You have the middle of May, you're basically in late May into June and then into July. Okay, the finals were in July in 2021. It was mid-July, almost late July when the Bucks won the finals. What is the issue with that? Okay, and I'll tell you what the issue is, or it could be the biggest issue. It would be the players. It would be the players, and I've been approached about this several times. Is the players want their summer, and I understand. I mean, these guys are millionaires. They go off to Cancun. That's the joke every year. They live a lavish life and they want to enjoy their summers away from the basketball court, or at least away from the team facility, right? They're probably still on a basketball court somewhere. But guys want to enjoy their summers. I if I'm just looking at this from an NBA perspective, this is why David Stern was and people have mixed opinions about the late David Stern, the late and great David Stern. But David Stern was basically an NBA dictator as commissioner. He wouldn't care. And nowadays, the NBA Players Association, they own a ton of power. They own more power than the owners, like the governors of the NBA, the owners of the NBA, to all the teams, right? The Players Association damn near owns more power, if not more nowadays, especially when you consider the CBA and everything involved in that. And I was even saying something earlier. Have you look at the rookie scales, in which we'll talk about a little bit later here. It's like the the NBA Players Association definitely meddles in standards, in rules, and contracts out there, and well, let's face it, the collective bargaining agreement, right? Um, but the Players Association, they own a lot of power. So it's not as if the NBA can just do this and with no pushback, because there would be pushback if the NBA tried to do this. But if I'm trying to maximize efficiency of the full year calendar, if I'm Adam Silver, if I'm the NBA front office, right? I'm wanting to dig into the baseball schedule more than the football schedule. That is basically the gist of this entire thing is you're taking 2 football months and you're flipping them around to your own months essentially. So you're flipping the football months into, you could say, baseball months as well. You could say you're flipping football months into baseball months, yes, but you're essentially flipping football months into your own months and then extending the schedule into the baseball season, because the baseball season's already been going on, and the NBA, they already eat into that schedule. But you're extending the time in which you eat into the baseball schedule. And I think the NBA, I mean, they could feast off that. They could 100, I think they would do a much better job in the ratings and just from a cultural perspective in America if the NBA got off the fall winter schedule. And I shouldn't say got off the fall winter schedule, but stopped competing with the NFL during the fall and early winter, cut that part of the schedule out and added it to the summer. And I understand players want their summer, but it's not as if they are not receiving the same amount of time off. Why can't you go to Cancun in November? Go to Cancun in October. Go to Cancun in September. All right? Go watch football in Cancun. I don't care. These guys are paid $40 million. These guys are paid $10 million. The lower level guys are paid at least $2 million. They can figure it out. They can go anywhere. Why does it need to be hot and humid? I don't understand. So I believe the NBA would do themselves a good deal of service to their ratings and revenue streams if they just stopped competing with the NFL at the beginning of their schedule, started on Christmas, maybe even lightened up the schedule just a little bit to fit everything. But again, you essentially in the NBA finals late July, you hold the draft late July or early August, and you hold summer league in August. What is the issue? What There's nothing in August and September. I again, it's the players that's really the biggest issue. But outside of that, I understand the cultural formation in which the NBA is culminated over time, but sometimes you need to rip the band-aid off, right? Sometimes you need to abandon a good thing for a great thing, right? That's sometimes the gist of the story. And this all started with, should the NBA move the draft back? Because now we're looking at this. The draft is 2 days away from Game 7 of the NBA Finals. This all started with that conversation. I was brought this perspective on the NBA holding the draft so close to the NBA Finals. Part of the appeal of holding the draft so close to the NBA Finals is to capitalize on basketball's peak interest, right? So the entirety of America and the globe, what's basketball's peak interest moment, right? In terms of grabbing all the eyeballs, it is specifically what we just saw last night, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But it's the game, it's the NBA Finals in general. That's the peak interest of basketball. And so part of the appeal of holding the draft so close to that moment is, ooh, we might actually get more ratings on the draft, make more money off the draft because everybody is taking their interest from the NBA Finals and the playoffs we just witnessed for the last 2 months, and now it smoothly shifts over to the NBA draft. There's not a period of time in between where we're going and forgetting, right? We're forgetting about the NBA, and some of that interest is lost. Say if you held the draft further on down the line, right? Maybe people's interest goes a little away in the draft. It's it it falls out of the spotlight. That's possible. I can see that view. I can see it. I'm just not. I need a week. All right, 2 days. Can we just get a week here? Can we get a week? And that's all contingent again on how many games the NBA Finals goes. But every year it has the potential to go seven. And if you schedule seventh game, 2 3 days away from the NBA draft, that's just a tough one. That's just a tough one. But ultimately, the main point in this all is the NBA is just not letting topics marinate with the public and content creators. And content creators just they can't expand upon the topic discussion. In my like, I just Durant yesterday, that trade. You have the Halliburton injury. You have Game 7, and now you have the draft. There's just so many things wrapped up into these couple of days, and the public too. It's like the public I'm not some. I gotta say this. I'm kind of a zero dark 30 personality when it comes to social media. I'm not. I'm not a social media guy. Straight up, like I have my entire Celtics dot everyday account. I grew that empire on social media, but the ins and outs of social media are a little, they get to psychological levels that I'm like, man, should society even be on social media right now? Should kids be on social media? Like, this is a psychological detriment, right? And one of those detriments to society is the fact that everybody just moves on, moves on, moves on. It's the next scroll, next scroll. Everybody is very impulsive, right? For the next topic. I I I I I see this as, from my perspective, I like to kind of digest things over time. I like to methodically get into things. I don't like to just impulsively go on and go on. I like to sit and understand things, all right? That's what I like to do. That being said, the rest of society doesn't necessarily work that way. Okay. And the public, they're more, if you look at the majority of public, they're more of the impulsive swipers. Let's get on to the next topic. Say the Kevin Durant trade, if we did a live on it a week from now, people would go, what are you doing? That was a week ago. That was old news, right? But it's really not. It was a week ago. It's like we have many more weeks in the schedule. This is a transaction which will play out over a long period of time. There's a lot of time to talk about this, but the whole cycle of media and content creation and headlining anything, it's you gotta capture you gotta capture the moment. All right. You have to capture the story in the moment. And that's what society, that's what they ultimately feed on, is in the moment reactionary substance, specifically from content creators out there. And so I this whole NBA draft thing, I understand there's a perspective of some people just move on. Like, we're just gonna move to the draft, and some people are just gonna move on from the finals, move on from everything that just went on in the NBA, and people are gonna be fine with it, and that's just how the world works. But there's another angle of this where the NBA is stepping all over itself with headlines. Instead of having a Monday headline be Kevin Durant, a Tuesday headline, well, let's just throw it out here. A Monday headline being the Game 7 of the NBA Finals, Tyrese Halliburton's injury. Tuesday. Say Monday. We're getting all screwed up here. Monday, you have the headline of Game 7, right? Tuesday, you have the headline of Kevin Durant. And Wednesday, you have the headline of the NBA draft. It's like you could kind of spread it out a little bit more if you're the NBA, even if we're talking like peanuts, like we're talking days, right? I've been talking about weeks, like maybe we can expand it out a week or two, right? But even if you're expanding out a couple of days, even that's better from my perspective, because the NBA, there's a lot of stepping all, like the NBA just stepping all over itself when it comes to headlines in which people will actually interact in and engage in out there. So there's just this there's two perspectives of this. It's the NBA capitalizing on the peak of basketball interest, and it's also just how society runs. It's just move on to the next thing. Let's go, move on, come on, let's go. There's also a perspective of maybe we should spread these headlines out a little more. Maybe we should let the whole schedule. Maybe we should let that marinate with the public. I'm just saying. I'm just saying the NBA draft. That being said, we got to talk about more NBA draft topics here because we just talked about the NBA schedule for about 40 minutes there, and I would consider I would say the NBA should maybe consider a a change there. I really, if I were to say it out loud here, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I already mentioned the players; they love their summers. It's the huge schedule change isn't happening. The little one could happen. It's possible. They've done it before, but there's nothing imminent, right? There are people shouting about it, but there's nothing imminent. There's nothing concrete. Usually, you start seeing Adam Silver release little quotes at press conferences, right? And little reports out there that we see throughout the season where, oh, the NBA is considering this, like a Shams tweet. It's like, the NBA, the board of governors are meeting about this, right? Or a Legion Hoops or a Hoop Central tweet comes out and Adam Silver's at the press conference or the podium. He's at the podium of the press conference and he's saying something like, hey, we might consider, because that's how the NBA in-season tournament, the NBA Cup started. It was, we're considering this, maybe. And then all of a sudden, the NBA Cup exists. So we would have to see a little bit more of that first before a huge change. We wouldn't just see a change. We would see trickling of, oh, this is being discussed by the governors, but nothing imminent so far. That being said, let's get into the NBA draft here, because the NBA draft is 2 days away. And I do want to read through some draft rumors here. I almost feel like this could be a little fun. Because I'm kind of going into this blind. Is I'm just going to read out rumors from Hoops Hype, and we're gonna go into it. That being said, let me kind of before we do that, let me kind of preview the draft a little bit and give a rundown here of the first. I'm really focusing on the top, basically the lottery. Okay, I want to say more so the top 10, but basically the lottery. We're going to have a whole Celtics draft preview tomorrow, so we're going to save the Celtics talk to for that. But talking more so on the top 10, the top picks, the guys, the most notable names in which are being thrown around right now before the draft. The first two picks seem to be consensus at this point in concrete. We all know the number one pick is going to be Cooper Flag. He's going to go number one overall to the Dallas Mavericks. It's a Zion Williamson situation. It's an Anthony Davis. It's LeBron James. It's a surefire number one pick. It's happening. We're not going to see any surprises on draft night. If Dallas were to give up that pick, I'm pretty sure we would see protests and riots in Dallas, and they would be about the Dallas front office. I feel as if Cooper Flag, if he is not a Dallas Maverick in the next 2 days, the city of Dallas might burn to the ground. So Cooper Flag, he's going to be number one overall to the Dallas Mavericks. Dylan Harper, he seems like the consensus number two right now. The odds market suggests that. Every single report suggests that. And there's possibility the Spurs look at Dylan Harper and look at the number two pick, and people are thinking, Giannis, maybe is there a possibility there? But right now, the Spurs, all of the information out there, they're in on Harper at number two. They're in on Harper, and I gotta say, Dylan Harper at number two. This kind of changes the future for San Antonio. I mean, obviously, anytime you land the number two pick in the draft and a player you project to change the course of your franchise, on top of, you already have Wemby there if you're the Spurs. Anytime you get the number two pick, it's going to change your franchise. But at the same time, this pick here, the Spurs didn't expect to have this high of a pick at all, to secure this high of a pick. And the player in which seems to be the consensus number two pick after Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper, I just want to point out Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox in the same backcourt. one of those two players will be traded in the next 2 to 3 seasons from the San Antonio Spurs. Because Dylan Harper, he is a ball dominant guard. He is basically, I kind of see him as a De'Aaron Fox light. I think it would actually be great for both of them to play on the same team in year one because we've seen it in the past. I mean, look, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he just wins Finals MVP, he just won the MVP, just won a ring last night. And oh yeah, you look at his come up in the NBA. Who is he behind and even playing alongside? Playing alongside guys like Lou Williams, Patrick Beverly. And when he gets to Oklahoma City, Dennis Schroeder, Chris Paul. I mean, really great veteran guards who, especially Chris Paul, who, if you look at Shea's career, you can't tell me that he didn't take something from playing with those great guards and those great veteran guards at the beginning of his career, whether with the Clippers or with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And sometimes those developmental years, and we've heard it before too with the Celtics, how Robert Williams, some of his defensive prowess basically came from Al Horford. Like Al Horford, um, being there in 21, 22, and being there at the beginning of Rob Williams' career, that really helped him become the defensive presence in which he became in that 22 season. And he damn near won Defensive Player of the Year that year. And it's just things like that, right? Where the young players, the young archetype of a player already established in the league, the veteran, when that's already in place, when that young player sees some mentorship, plays alongside those veterans, and sees the visual of how a professional carries themselves at particularly at the position, right, on court, but even off court too. Because these guys, like, at the certain positions, they work together. Um, that's very valuable. That can be very valuable to a player's career moving ahead into their career. And I think Dylan Harper could benefit heavily off of playing with De'Aaron Fox in year one. Just straight up. Just I mean, year one, year two, he would benefit heavily off of playing next to a veteran guard in the NBA who's been there before. And maybe not been, playoff success, but just been there before, regular season 82 game schedule, going through it multiple times, and how to navigate that as the archetype of guard in which De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper both are. I mean, to me, they're kind of the same type of player. And I don't really, I look at that backcourt and I go, I don't know if that's really a long term thing. I understand Fox, you just got him if you're the Spurs for the long term, but it might be Dylan Harper long term, and Fox might be a piece in which the Spurs move on later on in time. Number three is really where a lot of people are saying the draft starts here. And number three, there's a lot of noise about Philly potentially taking VJ Edgecombe at number three. A huge story this past week has been Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey, who at the beginning of the year, people were considering him for the number two pick. It was maybe Ace Bailey, maybe Dylan Harper. Ace Bailey, big wing, a big versatile wing who can handle the ball a little bit, can shoot the ball. Number two pick, right? Ace Bailey, the big story this week has been he's not working out for anybody. He is basically from what I've heard, right? And this is the story here. He's represented by Sharif Cooper's dad. So former Atlanta Hawks Sharif Cooper didn't do too much in the league, but was in the league for a brief period of time. His dad, Sharif Cooper's dad, his father, is Ace Bailey's agent. And the rumblings around Ace Bailey are he wants to be in a situation in which he is the main creator, the main ball handler, a situation in which he can play real minutes and develop on court. And that's essentially why the Philadelphia 76ers at number three, that's why it seems as if they might pass on Ace Bailey and why all of the intel right now is pointing towards VJ Edgecombe. Because in Philadelphia, if you go there, if you're Ace Bailey, guess who you're immediately behind? You're behind Paul George. You're behind, specifically at his position, he's behind Paul George. But he's going to be behind Joel Embiid. He's going to be behind Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain. As creators, as guys who own offensive responsibilities, Ace Bailey is going to be behind all of those guys on the Sixers. So therefore, he probably looks at Philadelphia and goes, not the best situation for me, and therefore didn't work out with them, and apparently isn't working out for a lot of other teams as well. To me, if you're coming into the league and you're not proven whatsoever, and you're trying to make demands the way Ace Bailey is without being a consensus top overall selection, right? Number one, number two pick, solidified guy. Because Ace Bailey, in my mind, not a solidified guy. I mean, I think he's going to be a very good NBA player, but these things aren't guaranteed. When I see Ace Bailey and the storyline coming from his side of things, I already had attitude concerns about Ace Bailey because I want to get into this conversation. Everybody loves, and I'm gonna go in here. Everybody loves everybody loves Brandon Miller down in Charlotte with the Charlotte Hornets, right? Like, oh, Charlotte, they have LaMelo, Brandon Miller. Like, you have a good forward there, a good forward to take you into the future. Brandon Miller, to me, I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. All right. I mean, I wouldn't touch any of these guys. I mean, whatever. But literally, I wouldn't have him on my team. Why? His personality, his attitude. I'm Brandon Miller. Immediately, I mean, coming into the league, first of all, the question was, did Brandon Miller murder a guy? I mean, that was seriously the question was like, okay, was he involved in a murder at Alabama? Was he? It's like, does that really matter on the court? It's like, yeah, that's off court. I don't. So there's that. First of all, it's like that was coming into the draft, and just all of his interviews. And it's almost like, is this guy ever going to be a leader? Is this guy like, is his head completely? Is it all there? Is it really all there? Like specifically Brandon Miller, right? He was the guy everybody looked at before the draft and went, really, really talented. And even right now, really, really talented, questionable personality. I still question that personality from Brandon Miller because I just look at him, press conferences, everything. I just don't see him as a leader. It's like you could be, that's the issue in the draft sometimes is so many people look at talent, 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 talent. What's their skill? What's their talent? Look at their personality. Look at their work ethic. That's what I'm looking at a lot of the times within the. I mean, along with the skill, looking at personality. How do these guys actually speak to the cameras? What is their, and this is really hard to find out if you're a scout or a fan or anybody, but what does their actual work routine look like? Right? What does their morning to afternoon to night actually look like within them pursuing an NBA career, right? As none of these guys are guaranteed yet. None of them. And they could all be draft busts. The personality standpoint is massive because people do not they don't they don't discuss this enough. But there are $1 million athletes out there, right? $1 million athletes with 10-cent brains. All right? And we've seen a lot of them in the NBA. We've seen a lot of them in the NFL. We've seen a lot of them across sports. Guys who are super talented, have every tool in the world to be one of the best players in X league, yet up here, their personality, their IQ, their their sense, their feel for the sport, right? And it's not even that, right? It's not necessarily the feel on court or on field, right? It's seriously the leadership inside the locker room, right? The professionalism one brings, the maturity and professionalism one brings to a locker room into a situation. Some of these guys, I'm just saying, they are 19, they're 18, 19, 20 years old. The personality is not exactly formed at that point. Their entire personality is not formed at that point in time. And some of these guys, yes, can be molded over time. I mean, perfect example of this is PJ Tucker. I mean, PJ Tucker has the perfect story to convey and display that point out. I mean, he started in the league, his routine, everything. Guys were, I mean, he was on the Toronto Raptors back in '06 when they weren't doing anything, and essentially falls out of the league after, I mean, he did fall out of the league in his first year, and then he goes overseas, plays overseas ball for several years before he actually comes back to the NBA. And we all know PJ Tucker. I mean, he was there on the bench as a 40-year-old with the New York Knicks during this past playoff run in 2025. So he turned it around entirely because he was a personality who the Raptors didn't want right away. And there were a lot of stories from him and even teammates of his where his work ethic just wasn't there. He wasn't a professional. His maturity wasn't there. Yet PJ Tucker, he's one of the most professional guys we have in the NBA right now. I mean, he's not, when you are not playing, yet teams still want you on their bench, like a James Johnson, like a PJ Tucker, right? Like a Udonis Haslam for years. And even the Celtics will have to see. I mean, Al Horford still plays with the Celtics. Let's face it, he's still a productive member, but he's a guy maybe later on down the lines. Like you want him on their bench, right? The Celtics bench. Maybe the Celtics want him on their bench. If those guys, if you're staying around, right? If you're within that range, it's like those are the most mature, most professional guys. Those are the teachers of the NBA, and it matters. The personality matters. And I gotta say, this Ace Bailey story. I already had questions about Ace Bailey's personality, just from a. It's like, is this a leader? Is this a leader? Is this kind of a, guy who's a little bit too egotistical, a little bit too airhead, like the airheads. That's what I'm just saying. The airheads are. It's if you have a guy who's a little, we see with a lot of players out there, guys who are a little too inclined to take over the moment, right? Like Jonathan Kuminga. It's like, I don't. It's like, are you a star? Like for real? Are you a star? I don't. Not to call out Jonathan Kuminga, but it's guys who are just not team players, right? Really about themselves, not team players. Ace Bailey, this whole story, I go, this is not boding well for his. Feel like anybody, again, I'm not big on social media. I haven't played 2K since what 2017. It feels like, but on 2K they have like plus, the you boost your team rating, your fan rating, or whatever. Like you go to the press conference, say whatever. I just don't feel as if Ace Bailey, where he's at right now, I just I'm not a fan of the personality. I'm not a fan of the mentality either. It's like you got to have a dog mentality in my mind coming into the league. It's like you're going to destroy the league no matter where they put you, right? No matter where they put you, it's like you're going to dominate this. You're going to destroy. Let's do this. You can do everything in your power. And Ace Bailey instead is going, well, I don't want to play here. I don't want to play in Philly. I don't want to. That's a losing mentality in my mind. Just is. And I have questions about it surrounding Ace Bailey. It doesn't look like he's going 3. Doesn't look like he's going 4 either. To Charlotte, I think Ace Bailey and Charlotte would be a complete disaster. Three personalities that I just don't see leading a ball club to a championship: LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, and Ace Bailey. I mean, come on, that I I maybe these guys are still young, I understand, but again, the personalities, I'm just not. I just think they're a little bit too immature. They're a little bit too about themselves, a little bit too involved in the glam and the glitz of the NBA and not the actual winning part and doing everything you need to do in order to win, which is all the hard little things, right? Sometimes guys they like to see the bigger picture of everything. Go, ooh, big shiny picture, but then you forget that picture is formed by all these little rivets forming the tower. Just saying, just saying. But VJ Edgecombe, number 3 here to the Sixers, potentially. Number 4, there's a lot of buzz about Con Knipple. And to me, I think that would be going in the right direction if you're the Hornets. I think he's a winning player. I think he's going to be I think he's going to be, from my eyes, I think Con Knipple is going to be a third option on a championship team. I think you're going to see eventually, and whether it's the Hornets, another team later on down the line, who knows? Eventually, I think he becomes a third banana in the NBA. I think there's potential if you have 2 guys who are better than Con Knipple on your team, and you have Con Knipple third. I think he can be a good, Middleton type for your team, as we've seen, Chris Middleton with the Bucks. Not saying he plays like Middleton necessarily, but slotting into that role, right next to a Giannis or Drew Holiday or even a Damian Lillard. That experiment we shouldn't even talk about that with the Bucks and Chris Middleton. That was just a complete disaster. But Con Knipple, I do see him as I see his floor as a pretty good role player, and I see his ceiling as like, could you be the second or even third? I see him as the third best player on a championship team, but The height could be a second best player. He could be a Jalen Williams, not a Jalen Williams, not playing like Jalen Williams, but that place in the order of stars on a roster, order of main contributors. So I like Concanipple for, and it's a home state type of thing too. So I mean, Concanipple went to Duke, might not be from North Carolina, but hey, lived in North Carolina. He's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so right up the state. But went to Duke, the Charlotte Hornets. They're in North Carolina. Duke in North Carolina, so you kind of have that connection going on there. Just saying. But number 5, the Jazz. I think the Jazz are in a perfect spot here for someone to fall to them. I think they are going to have their. I think the Jazz they're in a good spot at 5 because you're basically Edgecombe, Knipple, Bailey, Trey Johnson. That's what I see for the Utah Jazz. It's you're gonna have 2 of those guys fall to you if you're the Jazz at 5, and it could be Bailey, could be Trey Johnson, could be Knipple, and then at that point you're just making a decision between essentially again Edgecombe, Knipple, Bailey, or Trey Johnson. Maybe Utah likes Jeremiah Fears. Maybe they like Malawach. I doubt they would want to pair like they already have Walker Kessler. I don't know why you. The Utah Jazz don't really have many assets as we went over on a live previously. When it comes to just I shouldn't say they don't have many assets. They don't have a tangible team, right? It's like they don't really have a team that makes sense. So they're kind of just grabbing at anything they could grab. They could take a look at Malawach there at 9, but when you have so many skilled players like Edgecombe, Knipple, Bailey, Trey Johnson potentially there at 5, you got to go with one of them in my mind. Fears, Yakachonis, Malawach, they kind of, I feel like I want, when it comes to Edgecombe, Knipple, Bailey, and Trey Johnson, I feel like Fears, Yakachonis, Malawach, and then everybody else you want to say after them, they're a tier below. They're just a tier below those guys in terms of prospects, right? So at 5, you have the Jazz who are going to be picking between 2 of those, like that second tier, right? At 6, you have the Wizards. Again, it's just another spot where it's like who can you get to fall to yourself? I think the Wizards are sitting there praying Ace Bailey falls that hard because Ace Bailey, it doesn't look like he's going to Philly. A lot of rumbling about Con Knipple going to Charlotte at 4 if Philly doesn't take him. And so you have Edgecombe and Knipple potentially 3 and 4. At 5, there's a lot of rumblings about the Jazz liking Trey Johnson. You got to remember out there, Danny Ainge and Austin Ainge in the basketball operations department. Just saying, maybe look back at some Celtics draft results during their era, and we could get a sense of who the Jazz might like there. Ace Bailey, I think the Jazz were able to get Ace Bailey. That's kind of hard to pass up on, but I understand. If you're not a fan of the personality, if you're the Jazz and you think Trey Johnson has a little bit more upside as a I think Trey Johnson, my thing about Trey Johnson is I see him I just don't see a world where he's not a good role player. You might see a higher floor with Trey Johnson there as a role player, and the Jazz could take him at 5. But the Wizards, they are really hoping Ace Bailey falls to them at 6. That's kind of what I feel in all this because the Wizards don't really have a certified piece to build around. And you could argue if Ace Bailey falls to the Wizards look at Ace Bailey and go, "Oh, that's our first piece." And Ace Bailey, he could be anywhere from a Jason Tatum type to an OG Anunoby type to an Al Farouk Aminu type. Let's face it. I mean, he could be your I don't want to say low level role player, but a role player who's either coming off the bench, maybe your fourth or fifth starter, or he could be in that OG Anunoby range of really elite starter, or he could be in that Tatum range of just all star, all NBA cal. I mean, that's the range of Ace Bailey. I think he has a pretty good. I mean, all these guys have pretty good floors in my mind. Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, Con Knipple, even Edgecombe. I think they have pretty good floors. That's the thing about Dylan Harper. It's like, oh, he's consensus number 2. I think 3 through 6 in the draft. If you look at Edgecombe, Knipple, Bailey, and Johnson, I feel as if they kind of have a higher floor than Harper. And that brings me into a conversation too about the floors of NBA players. I believe and we said we were gonna go through rumors here. We were taking forever to get to that point, but we'll get there. Uh, but I think people look a little too closely um, at offense in the draft, and Dylan Harper is one of those guys. You look at his offense, yeah, you look at his offensive repertoire, and you look at a lot of these guys' offensive repertoire. And a lot of people look at offense, offense, offense. If you look at any highlight film, right, you go look at the draft scouting highlights, whatever people put out there, all offense, 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 offense. But defense sets floors. All right. Defense sets floors. From my perspective, it's more likely that a player, especially a role player, his offensive skill set and the offensive tangibles, right? Shooting, cutting, primarily if you're not a ball handling type of player, and that's not your responsibility on the floor. All of that stuff, I think can I'm just saying it's a little more likely one brings along their offensive intangibles than their defensive intangibles, which primarily lean on pure athleticism, height, physicality, just the physical. What is going on here? No, we're not ending now. What is going on here? I think we have a rafter visit. Let's see. We do. Ending now, by the way, folks. I don't know what just happened there. We just had uh a there we go. We
Well,
got the new hairdo, even though it's been on two broadcasts already. But hey,
I
got to give it
I
out to the folks, right? Got to
I
give it
know
out to the folks.
I know, and I gotta say, Seamus, like we've been talking a lot, like behind the scenes, about people getting to know the faces and know everyone, and it doesn't help that I just got a buzz cut. Like
No,
it's
I think it does. I think it makes you look a little bit more like Griffin, like a little tough, like a
yeah,
little
well,
more clean cut.
I
Like
know,
I know I'm somebody who's I'm the opposite. All right, I'm not gonna be a clean cut guy. Like I like to not get. I don't know. Like I still keep my stuff. Like it's wild, but it's not wild, wild, right? It's like it's just grown, right? I like
well,
still style everything. I still keep everything. Like it's
well,
not,
Seamus, I
no.
keep my hair. I will say I keep my hair pretty short, but I don't keep it this short. So it will be growing back. So, ladies and gentlemen, the hair will be back. It's at the Sea Dogs, my friends and I, we were like, oh, let's go with the buzz cut. So we went with the buzz cut, and it's time to grow it back. It's time.
Well, we'll be on that. But I'll say it this summer. The summer is the best time of year for that because
It
I mean
is.
we literally we had a private discussion the other day on the phone about this, but I'll bring it on to the live stream here. It's like it's like the summer would be the great like it'd be a good time to transition, away from the hair, but it's like I don't know if I don't know if I can do
So,
it. I
Seamus,
don't know if I can do it.
well, we talked about it. Are we gonna have, like, you already mentioned, and this was on a private call. We were talking, and Seamus is like, well, when players come in, media day, fresh new haircuts and stuff, is that gonna be Seamus from
Like we
is
do
that
the
gonna
media
be
day special, like we'll go live for media day and all
and
that. And
Seamus has a buzz cut?
no, that is where we all get the like we don't see unless players they post themselves on social media sometimes throughout the off season. Otherwise, we don't really
Like
see
Derek
these guys
White.
at all.
Remember
When
with Derek White?
Derek White, that was the most shocking, right? Two of the more shocking ones. It was Jalen Brown in 2019, I believe. Let's see,
Yeah.
2019, 20. Yes, that was the year. So I think it was 2019 media day. Comes in, the flat top is gone because remember he was sporting
Yeah.
that coveted flat. I mean that not coveted the what do you call it, the trademark, the I don't know what word I was trying to think, but the trademark flat top, right?
No.
And he cuts it off in 2019, and then eventually we have the second coming of that in Derek White in 2023 when he comes back and he has no hair. I mean, he had no hair. It's like, I mean, that's where
Well,
I'm like, that's where I look at your hair, Griffin, and I go, you're not Derek White. It's like you didn't.
I didn't
I
need
think
it.
that
Like,
like that buzz. I understand Derek White. Like Derek White, if you look at his hairline, just the way his hair and everything, like I understand why he's completely bald. But I
yeah.
think I'm a little more down with the buzz. Like you kind of, I gotta say, I'm a little more down. First of all, I'm a little more down with the buzz than just the full bald, where you're
Oh yeah.
taking a
Now,
razor for your face and doing
just
that across your hair. But I gotta say, you know who you look like right now, Griffin?
Baylor Shireman when he gets the
Okay,
ball.
well that's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that one. You look like Tyler Hero.
Oh, don't give me that.
Oh man. See, now I got to pull it up on stream. You know what? We're going to poke fun at this. We're going to poke fun at this like in another stream where we can get you guys like side by side like you know what? No, we can get you guys side by side right now. What am I talking about?
The
I
Tyler
what
Hero.
we can do that right now. We're just it's not going to be from a graphical perspective. It's just going to be we're going to hold up the iPad. Wait,
If I had the main Celtics jersey on, like with the red, with the red, that would look like Tyler Hero.
You might oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Can we get like can we get oh yes, and look, he's wearing red in this too. Oh yeah.
Do I put on the red?
Come on, folks. Yeah, okay, put the red like
right,
in front of you. Let's do this.
I'll be 1 second. Well, let's see if this will work though, Seamus. Like this might be a side by side actual like then we gotta pull up the Baylor.
This is so good. I gotta say, I already know the picture that's about to pop up here, and I gotta say, like, I just know you guys are gonna look. This is going to be
iconic.
This is like you guys. Everybody, anybody go to a hockey game, basketball game, they do the whole look-alike thing. It's like this is about to be one of the greatest segments. Oh my! And the red jersey and the red jersey. Okay, here we go. Ready? Ready?
I'm scared.
Oh.
Does he have the mustache in it? Do I go shave the mustache really quick?
You know what? I gotta say, you know what? He doesn't have the mustache. You know, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. I didn't realize that.
Look without it though, Seamus. Look without it.
What?
Look without it. Like put it down for a second.
Oh, you're like, wait, what?
I mean,
I wish I could get the recording out of the way. On the
I won't
screen.
lie. I think you're spot on. Wait, we have to pull
no, yeah, I know. I believe I'm spot on as well.
Hold on. I'll show you guys the other one. I'll show you the other one.
Let's
ready for this? All right. We have to pull this up, Seamus.
Wait a minute. Wait, is this any better without the smudges all over the place? Is it a little better? I don't feel like it is at all, but whatever.
Well, let's see this one, Seamus.
I'll bring it up on my end so we have the dual camera here.
Yeah, just look up the Baylor Shireman with a buzz cut. And like
basically just the most of his rookie year with the buzz cut, really. He started to grow it out a little bit at the end of the year. I mean, gotta give him that.
Well,
gotta give him that.
Well, go check out on Celtics Nation Rise too. I talked to him and he told me about the whole why he does it. So go check that out. But
okay, wait. Baylor Shireman. Okay, wait a minute.
Do I put on
right here? He doesn't. Did this one? This one is not. I'm gonna bring up a better picture, but just this one is not.
Do I put on a Celtics jersey now?
It's like no, he doesn't have the facial hair here.
Yeah, no.
But
do I put on a Celtics jersey really quick now?
Well, I guess to match. I mean, that would be the logical thing to do, right?
I think this is what we're doing now. Is this the segment that Griffin?
This is the segment. I mean, come on, right? I literally came on here and talked for 43 minutes about the NBA changing the draft schedule and their entire schedule around. It's like, yeah, we can do a look-alike segment here. I'm pretty sure. We're down for that. Why is there like no good?
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Okay, here we go. This is like kind of a good photo. Like I don't know, like you can't see his hair as much.
Hold on, Baylor Shireman.
I can't really zoom in. What's going on here? Kind of.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I'll find a better one.
No.
Buzz cut. Hold on. I'll find a better one for you, Seamus.
Well, I looked up buzz cut like it was
like this one.
Not gonna have...
Look up Baylor Shireman buzz cut.
Well, yeah, that's just a normal. That's the headshot, right?
But I think I got the headshot. Like pull up the headshot really quick.
Well, let's see.
Or like this one from the side, like from the side angle, maybe.
Whoops.
Yeah. I will have to say, you guys want to hear a funny Baylor Shireman story?
Of course we do.
All right, so Baylor Shireman and he likes matching my haircut. All right, I'm just gonna say, except I had to copy him with this one. Well, Seamus, pull up this picture. If you scroll a little down, like you could see him like looking to the side, right?
Okay, I had a picture like that, but then I abandoned it. Oh, you kind of look like Daniel Tice too.
Oh, don't give me Daniel
Oh, I forgot
Tice.
Daniel Tice. Wait, the only
Oh,
thing is Daniel Tice is such a like. I feel like you have a more like you and Shireman's face is you're a little more similar. Like Tice,
yes.
he's got the.
Here, I'll send you. Yeah, I guess we go with Daniel Tice. Well, like look at this one with Baylor Shireman and I. So it's funny, right? You look at this one.
Right. That one.
But as soon as I shaved my mustache, he shaved his mustache. And then like Baylor Shireman and I, you can't tell me we don't look related in this one. Like when I met him,
I know it's like you don't even need to buzz the hair to look like him. Really, I don't.
now with the buzz cut, I definitely look like Baylor Shireman. I will say that's my look-alike, Baylor Shireman. I'm a fat Baylor Shireman, you know, like not fat, but like a little, definitely a little bigger Baylor Shireman.
Well, you know what's funny about that is like, what is he like 6'7"?
Yeah,
and you're like, well, what are you, Griffin? You tell the viewership. I've heard rumors. You're like what, 6'3"?
yeah, I'm like 6'3.5", 6'4", around that. So I'm like, but it's funny during those interviews. Like, there's most of the players make me look so small, and it's like, oh, you're not tall. But like me against Mac McClung, who's like, what, like how tall is Mac McClung?
I mean, he's
How
like
tall is
what,
Mac McClung?
6', 5'10". I don't know.
No, he's 6'2". So like,
Oh,
6'2" Mac McClung.
that is. I'm sorry. That right there,
Is
total
that?
cap.
Oh
Total
yeah,
cap. He ain't no 6'2".
he's like, I would say Mac McClung's like, psh. But I do see a picture of him next to Jaylen Brown, and he does not look like too much shorter than him. Like it's on my wall.
Well, Jaylen Brown, I think people forget that he's pretty short too. Like not short. He's not short
like
in normal
6'6".
people's standard. But yeah, he's like 6'6". He's not like a
5.
Tatum. That's why. And I was just talking about Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey the whole season. It's like, oh, he's 6'10". He's 6'10". And then he measured in at the combine at 6'7". It's like, ooh, 6'7" is a little different than 6'10" because 6'10" is a Tatum, and 6'7" and below, that's Jaylen Brown is 6'6". That's why there's some discrepancy there. I mean that those 4 inches make a difference. Just ask the ladies out there. I mean, for real.
How
But there
tall
you
is
go.
Shireman? I'm doing the face too. Ready?
There's the side view, but there you go. Dude, we have so many great like screenshot moments from this segment already where it's like,
I know.
huh,
Or we have the what's it called, the clips, the Celtics Talk weekly clips that we're just gonna pour right out, with the lookalikes right here. Who else
we have
got?
so many clips. It is unbelievable. Like it is, I'll just say right now, too many clips to even post.
I know,
it's
like
insane.
one of my favorites that we definitely need to post. If you guys didn't watch it, it was the one where Franco was the cat, and then I pull out the clown mask. You guys need to go watch that one. That one was one.
That was in the what? That was in the preview.
I think so.
Review.
Review. Yeah,
review.
season, or like season review or whatever it was. But that was, go to the end and go watch that because you will get a good laugh out of that. Like
yeah, that one is that was I had to leave the room for that one. I don't know if you remember. No, the minute you got that clown mask out, it was
poor Andrew. He was just sitting there traumatized. Like, oh man.
Well, was Aiden still in the room?
Aiden was definitely long gone by then.
Oh man,
he would have been traumatized.
I was like, well, one of our guests. I'm like, what? He's talking about Andrew. It's like, at least we can have some therapy sessions with him after. You send a guest away, it's like you're sending him out there by himself into the world.
I know. And
then after that. But ultimately, I do want to get to some NBA news here to to close out the live. And I want to get to some NBA news, but I also want to talk a little bit about Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and we'll even mind your thoughts, Griffin, on Game 7 last night as we talked to Andrew about it, but we'll talk to you as well. However, going to the news here, and we were going to talk about draft rumors and draft news and the top 10. I pretty much didn't go through rumors there. We can go through some of those tomorrow. Just closing out some things on the draft. 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, yeah, we'll move on from that. Just kind of spitfiring about the draft. Talked about the top 6, 7 picks and really top 6 picks. But we'll have more draft content for you guys tomorrow on a live. However, let's get into the news. And the news coming out today, Daniel Gafford. So Daniel Gafford extended by the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas Maverick Center, and this is from Shams Charania here for those listening from an audio perspective. Dallas Mavericks center Daniel Gafford intends to sign a 3-year contract extension worth nearly $60 million. Sources tell ESPN Mavericks officials and Gafford's agents Mike George and Shay, and Shy Say. I mean, Shy Say. That was quite the name there. Of Clutch Sports negotiated the new deal through 28-29, and this report here says worth nearly $60 million. However, Mark Stein, local Dallas guy here, a national NBA reporter as well. Daniel Gafford's looming contract extension with the Mavericks is a 3-year deal worth $54 million. So, yes, nearly 60. However, it's only $54 million. And that is about $18 million per year on Daniel Gafford's extension going forward into 28-29. And some may ask, well, why do you bring up that news? What's the relevancy of that news? I'll get into it real quick here. Daniel Gafford, when we were on the Drew Holiday live, like I almost said a couple weeks ago, it was a couple days ago. It feels like a couple weeks ago, but a couple days ago, we were on the Drew Holiday live, and we talked about in length, and there's even a video out there. You can see Drew to Dallas question mark. If it's a 46-minute video, we're talking about the potential between, well, the potential of the Mavericks and the Celtics trading between each other, and maybe even the Celtics trading Drew Holiday away to the Dallas Mavericks for a package surrounding maybe Daniel Gafford, maybe PJ Washington, maybe Klay Thompson. We don't know, right? However, what we do know is if a deal goes down between the Mavericks and the Celtics for Drew Holiday, it will not be including Daniel Gafford. He was a huge name that we talked about in a potential deal during that Drew Holiday live. And Daniel Gafford now, he signs this 3-year extension. The rule is a team can still trade a player away when they sign him to an extension as long as the extension is not more than 5% of their previous salary and not beyond 2 years. Well, we saw within that tweet, it's a 3-year extension. Therefore, there will be a 6-month restriction, on Daniel Gafford and on the the Mavericks trading Daniel Gafford. So Daniel Gafford cannot be traded this summer all of a sudden because of this extension. Great payday for him. Great for the Mavericks to secure Daniel Gafford long term. The huge conversation when it came to Gafford and the Celtics and what that could look like is Gafford's extension, looming extension. What would that number come in at? Well, we see here the Dallas Mavericks, they go ahead and do that. And they come in at a number of $18 million over the next 3 seasons. However, what we know now from this little tidbit of news, the Boston Celtics will not be trading for Daniel Gafford. We know that. We know that right now. And the Dallas Mavericks, more importantly, will not be trading Daniel Gafford. So just a little tidbit of information there. Talked a lot about Gafford and the Mavericks on another live, but that bit of news there is relevant to all of that conversation because Daniel Gafford is off the tables. People still might talk about him in those discussions, but otherwise, he is off the table. However, I do want to get into Game 7 of the NBA Finals from last night. Even though we had a long stream on it, got to talk about it more here today because I think in hindsight, there's some more things to get to when it comes to Game 7 and talk about that I believe we should hit on. Number one, this coming from the news airwaves today out on Twitter, unfortunately. And we all speculated this last night, but it comes out officially today, as did the Tatum injury after Tatum goes down in game 4 against the Knicks. It came out the next day. We were left speculating for an entire day before it actually hit the news headlines. However, this reads from Shams Charania: breaking, Indiana Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton sustained a torn right Achilles tendon in Game 7 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Sources tell ESPN Halliburton played through a calf strain in the same leg during the NBA Finals for an opportunity to win the championship. So there is the official news of Tyrese Halliburton, unfortunately, just unfortunately tearing his Achilles, as we saw on the floor last night. And he actually came out with a really long tweet that I gotta say I can't. It's so long that I'm not even certain how I can exactly fit it into the graphic here, but we'll eventually get it up on screen. However, the official news comes out: Tyrese Halliburton going to be out for a substantial period of time there after Game 7 at officially tearing his right Achilles. We saw it on court, looked like the Tatum injury, absolutely awful. And I got to say this: the legacy of Game 7, right? The legacy of the 2025 NBA Finals in Game 7. In hindsight, Game 7 was ruined last night. In the moment, I'm hyped up. I'm excited for Game 7. Everything's great. Kevin Durant is just traded. We're doing a live over that, and then of course the NBA final. It was just a great NBA day. All right, yesterday I was hyped up over the great NBA day. The headlines, the storylines, the Game 7. We don't see that every day. Last time we saw Game 7 in the NBA Finals was 9 years before that. And ultimately, I came in here and it was like, oh, such a legendary night. But in hindsight, the game and just the moment was a little ruined, if not completely ruined, by Tyrese Halliburton's injury. And I didn't feel that way in the moment, but I feel that way now long term and in hindsight of what the legacy will be of potentially the whole 2025 NBA Finals and the game, specifically Game 7 of the 2025 NBA Finals. I just feel as if the legacy now is going to be looked at a little like every time we look back at Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals, we say LeBron James' block, Kyrie's shot, iconic moments. Those are the two moments that people most look at, right? And they think about the aesthetic of the Cavs winning. This year's finals, it's not going to be, oh, OKC pulled away in the third quarter and forced a million turnovers and forced 7 Pacers turnovers and just ran away with the game there at the end, and the Pacers just weren't able to come back. That's not going to be the legacy of this game. The legacy of this game will be, 2025 Game 7, the NBA Finals. Tyrese Halliburton, he tore his Achilles at the beginning of that game. Bummer.
Well,
And to me, it just ruined like in hindsight, it's like it ruins that moment in history. In the moment of when it was happening, I was hyped for Game 7 and everything, and again the NBA day. But afterwards, I'm thinking the lasting legacy of that Game 7, I'll never like. And when somebody brings it up in 2035, my memory will be, oh, that was the Game 7 where Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles.
well,
That's just how I'll look at it. I don't know how you look at it, Griffin. The
Yeah.
day after, I mean, my main question to you now, I mean, since I did post game with Andrew last night, just what are your initial thoughts, period, on Game 7, but specifically the legacy going ahead, and not only from Game 7, but the entire 2025 NBA Finals?
Well, can I show a close-up video of it happening, or is that too like graphic?
Look, okay, I am like on this program, like, you know what? I like the added value, right? How are you gonna bring it up? Like, what? How are you?
Just with my phone, like this.
Okay, but like, okay, number one. So I'm kind of like, yeah, let's show it for people who have not maybe not seen her, maybe like I don't know. But at the same time, I'm going, they showed that thing a million times on the
Yeah, but
broadcast, and
you
every
see
time it was like,
closer.
oh. But go ahead, just do it.
All right, let's
Just do it. Well, that was not even that one. That video was
Oh wait, this is.
also, it says explain in MLB terms. Like,
But look, I know I saw the close up like that,
Every time I see a video like that, I think of Chris Conley's Achilles tear with the Chiefs. That one was like his whole leg, just like the
Oh yeah.
calf. Same thing, just the ripple. When you see that
Or
pop and the
like
ripple,
I
same
I,
exact
I
thing.
look at the Ivy one too, Jaden Ivy, like his leg like just inverting, like that was gross. But my
We could go
whole
into some terrible discussions on
I know.
injuries. I gotta say,
But
like if you really think about it,
yeah, my whole perspective on it is like heartbreaking for Indiana. I mean, they were just in it from the beginning, and when Tyrese went out, it was like kind of the same mentality that the Boston Celtics did the next game for Jason Tatum, and let's go out there and win it for Tyrese, and you got to give it to TJ McConnell, Benedict Mathurin. You got to give it to them because they went out there and fought and like fought and fought and fought. And you saw in the late minutes of that game when Benedict Mathurin was just throwing his body on the court, giving it everything he had. And like that's the heart and dedication and blood and sweat and tears that I love to see. And yes, the Thunder did outmatch the Pacers, but the heart and effort was just incredible. And they were the underdogs coming into it. And you're going to you hear it from Kendrick Perkins. I'm sick and tired of hearing him yap about it. Well, Tyrese shouldn't have been out there with a calf strain. All these guys say when they had the torn Achilles, it was from the calf strain. Dame said it. Uh, Tatum said it, and Tyree said it. Blah 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 blah.
ridiculous because
When you're
it's ridiculous because the player wanted to play. It's like everybody immediately when that happens, like I can't believe the
I
team
can't
allowed him to
believe,
play, and it's
I
like the
can't believe
player wanted to play.
now
Blame the player.
you're risking his whole career. Kendrick, shut up. Like you look at it and like, all right, it's dedication, and like you look at that. All right, yeah, you could say the ifs, buts, what if. Tyrese wanted to play. Tyrese, and you saw it at the end of the game when he was in the locker room, on crutches, still being brave for everyone and strong. And that's the thing I love to see. And like I'm so tired of hearing, oh well, da 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 da. But I think the most heartbreaking thing and the thing that we need to get into is the double zeros. Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton both getting a Tilly. I said the same
I
one
know
you
we
said.
can't say Achilles for some reason. I'm like, why can't we
I
say
know.
it?
Both getting
Too
a.
many times we've said Achilles.
I know.
I
It's
mean,
like
starting with Damian Lillard, then it goes to Tatum, then it goes to Halliburton. It's like, can we just
it,
stop
it,
every? I mean, hey, we went the conference finals without an Achilles tear. Good job, NBA. I mean, we went
I know, but
one
it's
round.
so. It's like Tatum was the big what if. Now we have Tyrese too, who is younger than Tatum too. So you look at him and it's like, wow, two players and like look at their hairs. You see Jason Tatum's hair; they both have
I
the same
noticed that. I
full
noticed. I'm like,
zero,
they kind of went. They had the same because Tyrese Halliburton, when he came into
the
the
same
league, people,
impact too.
people,
Well,
people were saying, "Oh, he kind of looks like Tatum." They both had the buzz, but then they both went to the whole, kind of short curly fro, and they don't like they have the hair
yeah,
type where it's not like Tatum's hair. It's not like it's like if Jalen Brown grows out a fro, Tatum's he's got a little bit more of that white guy gene in him. He got a little more of the
light
white
skin.
guy hair.
It's that light skin fro for sure.
Yeah,
But
definitely. I mean, it's but same with Tyrese Halliburton.
yeah, for sure. But ultimately, I think it comes down to this. I feel like OKC, they're young and we were shocked because we were. You even said, and I'm gonna give you credit for this quote is OKC didn't have a heartbreak before this. Yeah, they had moments with OKC fans where it sucks, but this core has never had a heartbreak moment. And you see how young they are. And I mentioned this on episode 51 of Fan Series Celtics Nation Rise, how, they were so young, they didn't even know how to pop open champagne. Like, that's how young they are. But, at the end of the day, the better team is going to come over with the dub. And it might not be the better team. It's the team who wants it more. Now, did the Pacers give it their all? Yes. And I think we're going to look back and say, all right, what if Tyrese never got injured? What would be the outcome of this? Like, could have the Pacers won? I think the Pacers really could have won. And you heard it in the broadcast the whole time, them saying, well, the Pacers thrive in these type of situations down 15 with 7 minutes to go if Tyrese was in. So you listen to that and you hear that perspective and you're like, wow, the Pacers really could have won that. And it could have been a lot closer game. But I think ultimately at the end, it came down to that the Pacers were still fighting, and you saw the look of sadness in TJ McConnell's eyes. And it was just depressing, heartbreaking for Pacers fans. And, I have to give the Pacers credit. I mean, they knocked out some pretty darn good teams. And you look at that and you look at the run that they had, they were amazing. And you're going to look back at this and it's like, wow, well, they defeated the Knicks. You had the infamous moment from Halliburton going, with Reggie Miller and them not choking. So that was kind of a win in their book. And we talked with
Who
Boston.
win in our book too? I mean, they beat the Knicks that night.
I
I
know.
think that was the first Knicks game that wasn't against the Celtics in well, that was the first game after they faced the Celtics. So I mean, that was an amazing moment. We've been the episode hasn't released yet, but the Boston Pacers, right? It's like we know the
Just
origin
released
of the
on
Boston
Celtics Nation
Pacers.
Rise. Just released on Celtics Nation Rise.
Okay.
So
Okay.
go check it out. Go
So
check
it
it
is
out.
on Celtics Station, released on Celtics Talk Weekly a little later. But
But to finish my take off though, Seamus, I do have to say it was heartbreaking for the Boston Pacers, as we could call them. No, the Indiana Pacers. But you look at this Thunder team, and they're going to be scary. They're young, and you look at the numbers. They're younger than Auburn. Auburn college team. They were younger. Yeah,
really,
their starting five is younger than Auburn's last year's Auburn starting five, which is crazy to think.
couldn't beat Florida.
But NBA fans, there is some hope. All right. So if you're a team out there, you're like, well, the Thunder, they got one. They're gonna get a lot. Listen, the thing that Celtics fans are battling with too is the luxury tax. And there's gonna be a time and point where their big three is up for extensions. And you look at that, they're not going to be under the luxury tax after that. Once those players, because you have to admit, they're very young. And I believe they're coming up on a supermax soon, a lot of those players. So you give it time, you see how it's killing the Celtics. It could happen to the Thunder too. So that's just some hope, because obviously the Celtics need to build around that, and you could see how it's affecting the Boston Celtics. And I wonder if Adam Silver is like, oh well, the Thunder, well, we want them to succeed. Maybe we'll change that up. But like as of right now, you look at that and you're like, well, it could get them too. So Thunder fans, have fun with your championships right now, because the luxury tax is not a fun thing. We know as Celtics fans, Seamus, don't we?
Oh, 100%. That's a perfect segue. I mean, this might be the Thunder's only trophy. You never know. We never know when a team is going to go on a long run. Because I do want to get into this with the Thunder and their future the future tax implications with their team. Because I broke it down last night. However, I want to say I misspoke a little bit on their future when it comes to some of their future money when and mostly with the options when it comes to players. But next year, look, 25, 26. I expect the Thunder to be competitive. Obviously they just won the NBA title, but I expect the Thunder next year to compete for the NBA title again. They're favorites on the odds market. Every time a team wins an NBA title or any title, they're automatically favorites the next year. But the Thunder specifically, I would expect them to be right in that pool of teams yet again because they're in a spot where they can bring back their entire roster. I mean, their entire roster, they are next year if they bring back their entire roster and don't change anything around. And right now they don't have any crucial free agents or They just don't really. It's like they don't really need to add anything. I mean, they could add. I think they would do a good job by adding some more shooting. I think they need a little bit more shooting. We saw in that finals, just the shooting was horrendous. They were able to win without that, but maybe they could add more shooting. But ultimately, the free agency market and the entire asset pool of the Oklahoma City Thunder, there shouldn't be too much moving this summer because they're already right now with their team. There are no free agents. They don't need any moves. They're at $177 million for the entire payroll. The luxury tax line is $187 million. So they're $10 million below the luxury tax line already for next season. And to me, they already have their roster. This roster just won a championship. Why not run it back? They should be better next year. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Casey Wallace, a year
Topic,
older, a
topic, or
year.
however you say his name, Topic, I think it is.
Oh yes, Nikola
Or
Topic.
Lucy.
Yes, he's
Ha-
gonna be. He's
First
gonna
ever
be.
NBA player who has never played an NBA game and won a championship.
That's pretty
Crazy.
efficient. He could do it again next day. He's what, 19 years old? Yeah, only 19. Former
He's
12th overall pick last year. And
Wait, he's
remember too.
19. He's the
Yep.
same. He's the same age as me. That's like if I. That's just like me this year.
So
If I got
he
signed by an NBA team, didn't play a single minute, but I still got the chip.
he is turning 20 in August, but he was 19
Oh,
right now. But Nikola Topic, though, drafted last year, 12th overall pick, torn ACL, fell in the draft. That's why OKC. That's what's so scary about this Topic pick is the reason he fell to OKC was he tore his ACL. Teams didn't want to take him because he was going to be out his first year. But then you think about the long term of it, like it's an ACL, it's not an Achilles, right? And he's young too. It's not as if this could be you never know with knee injuries, could be later on down the line. But ultimately, ACLs, we've seen guys come back from that no problem. I mean, Zach Levine, look at Zach Levine, he slam dunk champion, tears his ACL. Do we ever talk about that anymore? He's still playing efficient basketball nowadays, years later after the ACL injury. But Nikola Topic, he's going to be coming in next year, the former 12th overall pick. He was actually considered a top 5 prospect in the 2024 NBA draft before he fell because of that ACL injury. So you have him next year. But you also just had the entire cohesion of the Thunder roster. That was part of the selling point of the Celtics this year was, well, Drew and KP, it was all a new team in 2024, but in 2025 it's like these guys know each other. They know what their tendencies are on court. They should be a little bit better. That's also going to be the conversation with the Thunder. Going to be in year 2, the tendencies, everybody should know each other a little bit better, than know how they want to play um, with each other and how the team wants to win. I mean, they've already gone through 100 games of that. The next 100 games, I mean, they should have a little bit more knowledge of each other and a little bit more cohesion, chemistry, right? So you have that going for the Thunder next season, but next season, ultimately 25-26, I expect the Thunder roster to be pretty well the exact same. And just like the Celtic, I mean, every time you win the championship, it's usually run it back, run it back, run it back next year. That's what the Thunder are going to do. However, in 26-27, this is why I'm not buying the dynasty talk. I'm not. I don't care how young Jalen Williams is. I don't care how young Chet Holmgren is. I don't care how young Cason Wallace is. And we just talked about Nikola Topic coming in. All these guys, right? What people are failing to forget, right, is the reason Oklahoma City is so good is their depth. Okay, it's not only their top stars, but it's their depth and it's their defense, of course, too. But it was their ability to play and plug and play different guys and different. I mean, look, Shea Gilgeous Alexander breaking. Holy shit.
what?
Uh,
What?
Okay, folks, we're emergency. Shams Charania breaking. The Boston Celtics have traded Jrue Holiday to the Portland Trailblazers for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. Sources tell ESPN.
What?
This is not Centel. This is not Centel. We are live. We are live. Jrue Holiday is now a Portland Trailblazer yet again, and Anthony Simons is on the Boston Celtics.
Yo, I can't even wrap my head around this.
I don't.
What? 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 Seamus is gone. Oh,
Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me right now?
I still hear you. What the heck just... Oh my gosh.
All right. Emergency live. So glad we didn't I'm so glad we didn't wait. What? Franco, first of all, we're on live right now. We just reacted to this live. We haven't broken down anything. I swear the minute I saw it, I mean, I lost all professionalism. Like you saw it there, Griffin. I was like, come on stream, Franco. Let's go. Come on.
Heard on the microphone right now?
Maybe. Let's.
I was about to just crash in bed, and I literally just had my eyes closed, ready to roll over. Saw that, and I am dressing myself right now.
Oh my goodness. Oh my.
Wow.
Oh my.
This is.
I didn't even know how to react. I was like,
Wait,
I don't know what to do. Like Drew Holiday is no longer a Celtic. And hey, guess what? Hey, we did the Drew Holiday live before the Kristaps Porzingis live. So there you go, folks. There you go.
26.
There you go. Whew. All right, Franco, you coming on live or what?
I'm working on it.
He's coming. All right, we're going to carry on here. But
all right. Well, what else? Is that the only piece we traded?
I believe so. We'll have to get more intel on this. We're going to bring it up on stream. I mean, this is all of a sudden turned into completely, I mean, wow. So the Celtics are getting Anthony Simons.
We must be giving.
You know what? That is crazy. I think I have Anthony Simons written on a piece of paper, like he's a potential guy we could have received. But whew.
All right, let me.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Celtics.
That is something.
Wow.
That is something.
This is, and this is not us. This is, wow. 100.
That is something. What? Wow. First of all, you know what? I don't even know where to. I'm in shell shock. I mean, this is like we're seeing this live on stream right now. Seeing this live.
Well, we were talking about Shea, and then Seamus.
All right, we're gonna completely change this YouTube title around here. Should we go live again? Should we end this one? Let's go live again. Okay,
Yeah,
let's end this one. Let's end this one, and should we end this one and go live again? Is that what we should do here? What, Franco? Do you hear me down here?
I think we should.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna end this live. We're gonna end this live. We're going live again here. Let's go and do this. So, folks, come join us here in the next 5 minutes. We're gonna be on live. Drew Holiday trade. Just kind of reacted to it live there. This has happened before on stream, gotta say, but we'll be back here in literally 2 seconds. So here we go. We're not even doing the rock music. We're just let's go talk about Drew Holiday, folks. Let's go talk about Drew Holiday. Actually, you know, F it. Let's do the rock music anyway.
Let's do that rock music.
See y'all in about 2 seconds.